Welcome to the Real Female Entrepreneurs. Today's guest is here to retire awkward sales scripts and rescue your pipeline from ghost town energy. Oh, we all need that. She's a no fluff sales and revenue growth strategist who turns cold leads into premium clients without pressure, pushiness, and pretending to be someone you're not. Blending mindset, messaging, and smart follow up systems, which again, we all need. She makes scaling feel strategic, simply, and wildly doable. Please help me welcome the amazing and wonderful Christine Campbell Rapin, founder of Clear Acceleration Inc. Welcome, Christine.
Super excited to be here, my friend. This is going to be so much fun.
Oh, my word. Christine and I have known each other now. Are we going on close to a year? Something like
just
that.
over.
Yeah.
Just over.
Yeah, just over a year. Guys, get ready because she's probably going to blow your mind. She's going to say something. Get your pen and papers ready because I'm telling you now, or when you're digital, or just go ahead and tap that dictation and just have us both everywhere. All right. You know what, Christine, tell us about your business. I know that you work with entrepreneurs and you get us out of our brain and get it into the checkbook. Am I right? Can you tell us
You are absolutely right. I tell people two things. First off, business is elegantly simple, and you are making it way more complicated than it needs to be. And what really matters most is that you think about, if you're going to be in business, do you want to create commercial success? Because commercial success should be part of the goal. And it's really a chance for you to write your own paycheck by serving awesome people that you can't wait to work with. And I want you to do that just not once every blue moon when you're like, it's working, and then fall off a cliff and wonder what the hell just happened, but to do this consistently, predictably, and when where you're in full control of the speed.
Oh, okay. Now, persistently, consistently, and full control of the speed.
Yes.
Okay. So that just brings me to a point that why don't we all have you in our pocket?
Well, you can. I would say not yet, you don't, but you absolutely can. And this is really the funny thing. I think it's so funny that people, emerging entrepreneurs in particular, want to constantly set themselves on fire. I'm like, that does not appeal to me at all. I love stability. I love writing my own paycheck. I love knowing I can decide if I want to do something wild and crazy. I have to simply find one more great person to serve to make that doable. And we forget in the emerging entrepreneur space that we can learn from big business, because big business has predictability, it has stability. And truthfully, my clients, when they go, you mean I can have that? To wow, I see how to do that. To wow, this is awesome. I love my life. It never gets old for me. I absolutely love it. It's the best role I've ever had.
I mean, just giving to them so unconditionally just makes my heart just like pounce and get excited because they can have everything they want. Am I right, yes, Christine?
You can. And this is a big thing, especially for the women. I want you to hear this as loud as you can. I want you to write a Post-it note, keep it everywhere. You can have what you want. And I debate this with my bestie. We've debated it since I was 15. We don't know what we want. I'm like, BS, we don't. There is an absolute truth. You'll absolutely hit 2x4s with upside your head because you're not going after it. But real freedom comes from when you decide, I'm doing this for me. And when that happens, and I've watched it, I've witnessed it, I've seen it break, it is incredible to see where momentum comes from. And it's like, wow, I can go after what I want. I'm like, you absolutely can. That's exactly why you're here, is to pursue what you want. And that doesn't mean at the exclusion of your family, your children, your partners, and other obligations you have. But this is my biggest tell with my clients, and this is often why we get hired. Your business should feel like oxygen. If it doesn't, something is way off track. Let's correct this, because your business should be a spark for you. I happen to be a mentor who's a fuel source, but your business should feel like oxygen.
Okay, Christine, if you do not have that as a tagline anywhere,
trademark it now.
Yeah. Or, quote it so many places. Oh, I would use that as a quote.
It's definitely something we live by. And I, my number one goal for this year was to say more often, and I do say it a fair degree already. I really love the life I'm building. I love the life I have. I love the choices I create. And today was a really beautiful full circle moment because I've been working with a client now for about, I would say 8 months. They came into a group program with me initially, and then they wanted to continue the momentum. So they came into a second program. And she said, she just came back from a ski trip. And she said, I had for the first moment this realization that I really love the life I'm creating. I'm see how it works. I actually got to go and do the things I wanted. I worked on the weekend and I was okay with that. But she's like, I'm in such a different place where I love the life I'm creating. I'm like, I want more of that. I want more people to win like that.
I love the life I'm creating. Oh, wow. Could you picture if we had that as a mantra?
You can. And this is something you could absolutely step into, because the issue is not that I don't know what I want. It's a big conversation that I don't believe I can have it. And here's the wild bit of life. You can never have a dream that isn't possible to create. And you're not intended to create it by yourself. So women, let that go. We're not islands. We're meant to be interdependent and connecting to other people's. But if you can dream it, you can build it. I can absolutely tell you there's just no physical way it doesn't happen unless you don't put the go gear on and get off zero.
Okay, guys, she has so many mic drops for you. Isn't that funny? I really want to know what sparked you to actually become this entrepreneur and change the way entrepreneurs and businesses think as a whole as well. It had to be an intriguing story, and I cannot wait to hear this one.
Well, truthfully, I never was that audacious in my own imagination. Like, I never set out to build the business I have now. It truthfully never occurred to me. So just take a note here, people. I did know I would be an entrepreneur, and I set out to create my own success. And I was building my first business working at an hour a day. So guys, it's not about how many hours you're working. It's about, are you effective in the time you're working it? And I would inevitably run into peers, other entrepreneurs, other business owners. It might be a more comfortable title for most. And I would sit over a glass of wine, or we'd have a cup of coffee, or we'd go for a walk, or just bump into each other in real life. And I would inevitably watch them working 60 to 100 hours. And I'm like, are you making any money over there? Are you serving any clients? And they're like, well, it's coming. And, someday. And there would be all kinds of not, yes, Christine, I am. Like, fill in the story. And I said, well, it's exhausting, my friend, watching you do the hokey pokey, because you're 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Anytime you get in momentum, you sabotage it. And I'm like, it's painful. Why are you doing this? Like, I just don't understand this insane behavior. And they said, well, not everyone, has the same skills you have. And I was very lucky, and I had educated myself. I understood the world of business before I started my business. I was educated. I got 2 degrees from great universities in business. I've lived in business all my life, and I've lived in the commercial world all of my corporate career. And so I had the leg up. But I said, 2 things predict your revenue. So do 2 things to the exclusion of everything else until you get that result, and then add other things. And they'd go, well, that makes sense. And they go, I actually watch you do it. And I'm like, well, that's good evidence, follow that path. And inevitably they said, I go do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And life would pass, time would pass. And I'd circle back into bumping into them, or we'd reconnect on social platforms. And I'd say, how's it going? And they'd be like, I'm still in the same place. I'm like, well, that's absurd. And just, losing the vision and broke her financially. And inevitably people would be like, could you help me? And I'd be like, okay, what advice could I give you? And they're like, the advice is not enough. I need you to walk with me. And I'm like, that's weird. And they're like, I'll pay you. And I'm like, that's weirder. And I think honestly, that was my answer for years. It's weird. And inevitably, this was a pattern. And people kept, I said, I was invited into this. People kept offering to pay me for it, to respect my skills and to respect my time, and to know that saying yes to that would be taking time out of my family and other commitments I had, because I was still working corporately and I had a job. I traveled 40% of the country, and was at that time, as you know, my husband, I said, well, I was engaged to be married. He had children. So I was going to become a bonus mom. I said, starting a business wasn't rational. It wasn't a lot of time. and there was not a lot of bandwidth. But inevitably, somebody smart, I respect, said to me, "You're not paying attention." And I'm like, "What?" They're like, "You're not paying attention. Let's give a 2x4 upside your head. You have skills that are valued. You have people you could support, and they're asking you to support them. You are disrespecting God by not saying yes. He's given you the lessons. He's asking you to serve, and I think you should pay attention."
Oh,
And I was
Christine.
like, wow. Wow, that's a perspective I didn't anticipate. And inevitably, I sat with that for a while, and then I was at least open-minded to the possibility that I would say yes. And I bumbled my way into my first client, never imagining I'd build the business I have today, because a friend of mine, somebody I actually wouldn't have, maybe friend isn't the right word. I was an acquaintance of somebody in a network. And so I know of her. We'd never really had a one-to-one, but she knew people who'd worked, and respected what I did, or at least had a perspective of who I was. And she asked me to be on a podcast about what it was like to be in the sandwich generation, becoming a bonus mom, having parents that were aging, and how did I still show up and do what I wanted in my life. And inevitably in this pre-conversation, she's like, "Well, what does it cost?" And I was like, "I don't understand the question." And she's like, "Well, what does it cost to hire you?" I'm like, "To hire me to do what?" And she's like, "Well, I want you to help me figure out what to say, how to say it, and how to commercialize my business. And I think you know how to do that, because you've given me more ideas in 2 seconds than I have had in 7 years. And I'm still trying to figure this out." She's like, "I'm asking if you'll help me." And I'm like, "I can help you." She's like, "So how much does it cost?" And I thought, never that fantasy land of, if I ever could commercialize myself, I hope I'm worth this. And everyone has the number in their head.
Mhm.
Well, whatever my number was, I halved it because I was scared, but I didn't run away. And she's like, "Great, I'll get my credit card." And I was like, "I don't know how to take the credit card." She's like, "Well, you can solve that problem." And so I wrote down her credit card. I was like, "I think I have a client." I then went to go tell my then soon-to-be husband, "I think I've started a consulting business." He's like, "Well, how are you going to take her payment?" I'm like, "I don't know. I got to go figure that out." I was like, "Well, if it goes through, let me know and we'll celebrate." And that's honestly how this all began. I was invited in. I was willing to be scared and figure it out. And I really just thought, never look for clients, look for people you can support, ways you can contribute, and problems you can solve. And if you can do that, commercialize it, because the easiest exchange for people is money. Even though we get all of our headspace around money being weird, or we don't want to ask for it, people really exchange. If I need to buy groceries, I'll give you money and you'll give me food. And so when they have services, they want to pay you because they understand the exchange of value. And so inevitably, that's how it all started. And then I thought, okay, well, it's a beautiful, humbling experience to sit front row in somebody's dreams, but I have skills that they don't have. And it is richly rewarding to watch them go from, "Wow, I get to have this," to "2, I can have what I want," to "I see how this works and I can't wait to find people to support." It's so cool. And now I have a very big global business that we do this every day for the emerging entrepreneur. And I love to support the emerging entrepreneur to their first million, because there's so many moments of faith, crisis, but the belief is incredible to watch happen, because the ripples change everything.
Wow, I can just see it in your eyes how you bloom every time somebody else gets what they really want,
Yeah.
and are building what they want, what they love to do, and that oxygen just flows in.
It does. And I tell my clients this, and I tell almost every community I'm part of, I'm like, when you are winning, send me a message. I don't care what time of day it is. I don't care what day of the week it is. I love to see people going, "I really love the life I'm building," because that's actually what we're here for. And I think there's such a national pastime of complaining that I'm like, I really want to see you win. And when people tell me, "Oh, Christine, I'm overwhelmed and there's just so much to do," and you know what I hear? It's going to not be popular when they hear me answer this. I hear you're not winning.
Mm-hmm.
Like, overwhelm is a delayed decision. You're not making any decisions. And to win a decision is simply to make a decision, commit to the decision, and then say, "I'll make it right. Right for me, right for the people it's made for," and learn from the input you receive from a statement, a decision, and then make another one. And I think the biggest legacy I know clients have when they work with me, they're like, I know I can handle anything. It doesn't mean I want to handle it by myself, but I do trust myself to make a decision and make it right. I'm like, it's your life. Go live it wildly.
Ooh, another one. It's your life. Go live it wildly. When are you going to make all these your quotes?
I guess soon. After this conversation.
Hello. All right. So, corporations, entrepreneur, God dropped it in your lap. What would you go back and tell your 18-year-old self?
I think that every grenade that gets lobbed at you and every grenade you stand on serves a purpose. And it's funny when people look at the highlight reel and they look at where we are now, and there's a lot of dismissiveness that it was easy, that it was easier. And people who've been with me through these trials, they're like, I remember the crushing conversations when everything you thought about yourself was redefined. And because we talk with our young kids that we influence now, I said, we didn't start at this level of success. And truthfully, success some days was getting out of bed. I've had great successes in my career, and I've also been fired 1,400 kilometers away from home, wondering what the hell just happened, and wondering, how did I not see it coming? Who will I be if I'm not this? But every challenge and opportunity has shaped my capabilities of today. When something gets rattled or when a client is rattled, I'm like, I really believe, because I've both lobbed grenades, stood on grenades, and lived through all of it, that I really trust myself to problem solve. And I think when we're working in the business world, we have to understand our biggest commitment is to solve the current problem and to reach for help, reach for resources, and recognize, we're the spark, but there's fuel sources to help us do that. And so when it's amazing, enjoy it. And when it's awful, there's a reason. And now I sort of giggle when there's something really confronting going on, because there still is. Everybody, we're all evolving. I'm always like, wow, there's something going to be amazing on the other side of this. I just have to keep going.
There's always grenades, like you said. I love that analogy that you have about the grenades blowing
Someday
up.
you hear the click. You're like, oh, I really heard that.
And I mean, there's always these grenades blowing up, and I love how you addressed it as it's just something, it's a problem. You have to solve that problem.
Yeah, there's always a defining before and after. But they're also really going to give my parents good credit for this, because I was raised in a household where bring a solution to the conversation was always kind of how we were brought up as children. And equal to that is, you're not defined by a single moment unless you let it define you. So I remember when I was writing, my exams and going into university and my exams in school, and I'm like, my whole life will not be defined whether I pass my driver's test. My whole life will not be defined if I get whatever percentage on my math test. And so that's something that I've had to hold to when I've had some really beautiful success stories. It's like, this isn't my whole defining moment, because there'll be another moment. And that has helped take some of the sting out of things. And it also has given me permission to evolve and go, oh dear. Well, I'm sure there'll be a great story in this somewhere. And right now, to this day, some stories are so still, they're sensitive, they're raw. It's like, I'm still not sending thank you cards, but it has shaped me who I am. And I'm not always, I don't take the subtlest of hands. So sometimes they've rather been heavy-handed in their course correction.
Let's talk about some good defining moments, though, if you don't mind. Let's move it there, if you don't mind, because there's always a defining moment that shifts your business in some fashion. Is there some strategy, decision, or habit that you've done that was a game changer?
Yeah, for sure. One of the earliest observations I had, because I didn't have the consulting business when I first started. And I thought my observation, when I looked to the world and I looked what people were spending money on, and I looked where I was investing in my time in rooms, was that there was a lot of, I'm going to use the word charlatans. There was a lot of sizzle, and was a lot of people struggling against, well, I want to do it the way the gurus were doing it, and not succeeding in the same level of success because they didn't have, they were not comparing chapter 1 to chapter 1. And I observed this, and I made a comment to a peer, a business colleague of mine, and I said, I think the wrong conversations are happening. And she's like, are you observing or are you leading this somewhere? I'm like, I think we have to change the conversation. She's like, that's a good idea. You should follow that logic. And I created my first event, and events have been a big part of my business success because nobody got out of bed to hire me today. And I'm really clear on that. Randomly go, oh, today I should hire a consultant. Doesn't happen. But I knew that events were important because if I didn't want to sit at somebody else's table, I was responsible to curate my own. And so events and having the courage to blaze and be the first person to go spark something has changed my business. And it constantly is the thing that energizes me today. And I phoned, 10 friends and said, I'm going to do something in 60 days or less. I want you to have my back. And they're like, we'll be there. What do you need? And it's like, I'm going to go figure this out because I think we need to teach people foundations. And I had a mentor at the time, and she said, this is me paraphrasing, so she really didn't say it this language, but she basically said, you're crazy to want to play at that level because it's easier to shine. It's easier to sell the sizzle. Nobody wants to pay for the fundamentals. Nobody wants to go and do the work. Nobody wants to really understand what it will take. And so I want to dissuade you from doing that. And I want to dissuade you from starting a podcast. This was several years ago. And I don't know that events are, they're going to be time intensive and distracting. And I'm not sure this is the effective way to go at business. And I held true to my own opinion. And I said, it may not be the easiest way to run, but it is the way that I know will work. People need the foundations. They need support. They need conversations from people who are willing to be on the same side of the table as them, but really vested in their success and truthful about what it will take, truthful about how things connect and not gatekeeping it. And it changed a lot of the trajectory of my business by having the courage to, maybe it's crazy, but I believe in this path. And if I don't see a table I want to sit at, it's my responsibility to go create it. And that's what we've done.
Wow. Creating your own table. Okay. Creating your own table and stepping up and going, that's me, is so important. And that takes us to the next little level of that. Most entrepreneurs have a thought process in their brain that needs to be kicked to the curb. What is I know you probably have a couple. So bring them on for me, Christine, because you deal with so many of us. And I mean, I have some that need to be kicked to the curb. I know I do. But what are the ones that you see?
I would say the first one is that it only takes a great idea. Because truthfully, the ideas are the easiest bit of all of this, and ideas are where a business is built. And so as a consequence to that, we have to really be aware how we chase our own shiny objects, because our brain and our creation, and I have lots of love letters in my podcast series about stop creating something, go sell what you've already created, to my creative people, because you've got to think about it. And I heard a story through Alex Hermosi, who's got some sound business logic between how he runs his business, whether you like his style or not. And he said, what my team had said to me was, you have to be certain this idea is a 25% improvement for us to pursue it. And if you look through the lens of if every idea you had the possibility to create 25% gain, you would have fewer you would execute. And here's the logic why. For every time you start to execute a new idea, you lose momentum on what worked. And you lose about 20% of your effectiveness. So you get, your time, your focus, your relearning, your new systems. So you start to backtrack in your momentum in order to gain 5%. So you always have to really vet this. So the first thing I would say to people is fewer ideas, execute the ones you have that you believe are the biggest win upsides. Because the ideas is not the easy bit. Second thing, which is, people really need to get their heads around, is you're going to need to make phone calls. And everyone's like, what? Old school? Oh my God. I'm like, nothing moves money and momentum and connection and relationships faster than conversation.
Oh.
It's not AI. It's not automation. And the fastest way to connect to somebody is actually to pick up the phone. And I ran a sales training or a training to a networking group that was really about referrals. And I'm like, you need to make phone calls. And they're like, do you mean legitimate phone calls? I'm like, I mean legitimate phone calls. They're like, well, how many? I'm like, well, how many are you making now? They're like, one a year. And I'm like, well, how's your business? Well, it's not very healthy. I'm like, well, at minimum, have 3 asks a day. And truthfully, I get challenged to make 20 calls a day, and I don't always do it. And every time my business stalls, the fastest way to get it started is go talk to somebody, pick up the phone. And so you're going to have to actually talk to people. That would be number 2.
So
and
we're
I
going
think
old school again. We're going old school.
We are. And I actually think across the board, we're going old school, because in the world of so much generated content and so much outsourcing of your words, the only way people can trust you is when it's unedited, natural, and live.
Wow.
And so we are going to go back to handshakes. We're going to go back to being in the room. We're going to go back to, I witnessed this delivery live, because we're going to have less and less interest in being entertained by artificial stuff. And you can see the boomerang going now. And a big part of always what we've done is high touch, high impact, high results. I'm like, I will never have a client I let get lost behind. It's my personal integrity. And that's, again, old school values. It's like, I said I would do it. I will do it. Yeah. And I will be very clear on that follow through, which people are like, wow. And in our case, even like with our podcast, like, I don't have editing skills. Let's also talk about know your limits and what your skills are. I don't have editing skills. So my podcast goes out completely unedited. And most people don't know that from a delivery, because they're like, well, you're seeing the finished product. But I said, we now put artwork on the front and artwork on the back, but there's no content that is edited. No ums get taken out. No, none of it. It is real life delivery. And then when people come into my events at the tables we set, or they come have a conversation with me, they're like, you're legitimate that person, aren't you? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, I trust you in ways I don't trust others. Mm-hmm. So I think we are going to go back to some old school stuff. And we also need to be taught how to listen and care for people in old school ways.
Oh, my word. Yeah. I get the same thing. People go, you're really you. And I'm like, yeah, I'm really me.
You really talk like that. I really do. You're really that direct. I really am. And I really want you to win. And I want to be on the same side of the table as you.
Wow. Okay. We're going old school. I'm happy about that, because it just brings back so much life. So let me ask you about generations right now, because I had a conversation with somebody, I think yesterday, and they informed us that we are looking at 5 generations in the workplace itself. Mm-hmm. So we know our 50s and 60-year-olds can go old school. All right. What do you think about our 20, 30, and 40s?
Well, it has to be a skill that's built. And here's an interesting thing. I was reading, it was an insurance company that was on a customer service team, right? So clients reach out to the insurance company. And this company was spending hundreds of thousands of dollars teaching the lower generations, the youngest generations, how to actually answer the phone, how to actually use and track and have conversations with people. And they were really with this soft skill, because again, generationally, it's like, well, just text me or I'll just do it. And it is a skill we have to teach. And so I think we have to be committed to supporting it. And what's important is also, we see it in some of the media stories about the younger generations and how communication skills are not built in education systems, in family homes. But when you come into the workplace, if you have older generations leading it, it's like there are a mismatch now against expectations. And the hardest bit of business is people. And it all comes down to, can you communicate? Can you ask? Can you receive? And can you commit to communicating against expectations? And whenever anything goes south, it always comes back to that very simple thing. And so you may be needing to invest in your own skills, and you may need to be prepared as an employer to invest in others, because we simply can't say that it was taught. And that's not to say that, we can't adopt modern technology, but there's nothing more valued than human to human engagement. And I do think it will become a premium. And so what is gained by human to human exchange is curiosity, connection, and good questioning. And I think that the questioning skills are the most important ones we need to support, because they're going to drive your use of, even if you want to, technology. If you can't have critical thinking in any generation, you are at a disadvantage. And I think that's why when I think about what's my bigger legacy impact in my business, it's like I'm teaching you to critically think about how to create your own success story. What's the works to be done? What's the dominoes to be done? What's worth it to you? But it's all critical thinking skills. And I said, that's why when clients leave, they're like, I really know what I can create. And there's confidence around that, because you have to bring your brain to work.
There's some books, I can't remember the name of them, and they're basically, are you asking the right question? And I think there's might be a few different books about that. I can't remember who the author is or anything. However, asking the right question changes the result of what you get, the answer. It also changes your income. Correct? It changes everything. Name something and it will change your whole entire life.
Well, it changes the lens in which you see it. And in the way that I predict the future, my magic 8-ball, get it out and shake it. You know, what's most important, and I say this to all my clients, especially because we serve B2B service-based businesses primarily, you're hired for your opinion. You have to have one. And in a world where we have been, blended into mediocre thinking, non-thinking, extremism and everything in between, I'm like, your North Star is the way which you see the world. The way you've had experiences, the way you've had education, the way you interpret. And it was a lesson my dad taught me when I was very young and continues to remind me of it, even at his advanced age as 87. There's 3 types of leaders the world needs, and you get to decide what kind of leader you are. But you're leading yourself and you're leading others all the time, and you're influencing self and others all the time. But leaders who can gather the facts are going to have their lunch eaten by them by AI. It's faster, it can interpret, and it can gather data faster than I will ever be able to do. But it's not enough to just do that anymore. That low level thinking isn't rewarded. So now it becomes, well, can you make sense, find patterns, and interpret data? And that's where, management kind of was always rewarded in the past. Can you make judgment calls? And that even now is also starting to be eroded, because you can get multiple scenarios kicked out of data. But what can't be replaced to this current status is I can gather the facts, I can interpret the facts, but I will execute based on my own lens. And that's actually what you're rewarded for. And that's the kind of leaders that the world needs. And so it's like, what's your opinion? How are you interpreting? And here's the kicker. Leadership is not a title. It's not a salary range. It's a choice about the greater good of survivability for yourself, your dreams, your people that you care for. And so you got to recognize you're not always going to get the applause. It's not always going to be cheered for. And it's also the one that is the most richly rewarding, both externally and internally validated. So I think that's the kind of leader I've always wanted to be. And it has been. I've stood on grenades and I've had them lopped up my head. I also know is the kind of leaders I want to help others be too. Because I think that's the place that we're going to see really beautiful things, solving problems, navigating the complexity that the world is spinning around. Yeah. But there's cool people who are thinkers, and the thinkers are going to need critical skills, and every generation has a role to teach in that.
So, Christine, your leadership and what you're talking about, this is all we're going to say is, yay! We'll cheer you on.
I'd curtsy if I could.
I want to go back again to, we were talking about generations a minute ago, but I want to go back again to the sandwich that we talked about,
Yep.
because that is where a lot of us are. And I don't think people understand that sandwich. And if, is it a life balance or is it just a dance, or what is it to you?
You know, it's a beautiful responsibility I choose.
Mhm.
And sometimes I have to remind myself I am choosing it. And I have other people that are good in my life that remind me this is optional. This is a choice you're making. And because I can really take care of myself and I have a responsibility too, that I can't lose myself in the generational swish. What is also true is you really get to choose how you navigate it. And, you know, as an entrepreneur, one thing I was really aware of, and it happened a couple of years ago because my husband lost his mother. We have aging parents, so it wasn't a total surprise in the outcome. It was surprised in the timing. And I, at the time in my business, had had a big boom of new clients. And one mentor had said to me, you know, they'll care about your personal circumstances for about a week. Like, they're compassionate. They'll understand you've lost your mother-in-law, that you're relocating, you're traveling to go and support all the next steps that entails. But they won't care long-term because they hired you for an outcome. And I also had the truth that said, these aren't my parents and we're not the primary guardian responsibility, which we are on the other side. My parents, I am very much going to be involved from a legal perspective and all the other things that come out of it. And as a decision maker, I'm carrying that role. And I remember after that week, and that comment really lingered in my brain, and people were really good. I have good people that I hire, good people that hired me, and everyone had a good heart. But I also was really clear. The second call I made was to my other mentor, which said my business has to be fundamentally different in a year, because I want the freedom to be able to support my parents and my clients and not lose myself or trade either against each other. So I have to really shift from being a delivery to being a thinker, because that's the thing I can influence. And that's how I can love myself in the middle of this, even though I expect to be a bit of a hot mess and a bit erratic. And so I think, again, this is how you see that responsibility, and to choose how you'll navigate it is key, because the world will tell you it needs to look a one way. And it's the same thing that I see in business. And it makes me crazy about business coaches out there, which is why I never call myself a business coach. I'm a mentor. I'll tell you what to do, when to do, why to do it, and how to do it if you ask, and I'll always have an opinion. So be prepared for that. I'm not coaching you, I'm guiding you. But the thing that's really important is there's not one way. You know, I work with 400 businesses, all shapes and sizes, to compete with a lot of revenue. And no two businesses do it exactly the same way, because their people are different, their demographics are different, their family dynamics are different. But what's important is you understand there's 5 foundations in business. They all sync. You have to find your way and do it your way, because you get to choose how you play the game.
Ooh, okay. So you get to choose how you play the game. And with your parents,
Mhm.
you have made that decision already, how you're going to play it when and if anything plays out.
Yeah. And in some ways, like, it's also, we've thought about who needs to be on the bench, right? So I know what I'm going to say my legal responsibilities are. I'm the power of attorney. We've got all that organized. I manage the financial decisions to this day. And I know there's a big probability I will relocate my physical life to support geographically, because they don't live near me. And I've already negotiated that. And we've had that conversation for 10 years in my marriage. So we all know what the roles and responsibilities are. And we've also thought about, you know, who do I need when I need quick decision-making thinking pattern, because I know my own brain capacity will be altered in the heat of the emotions of this. So I'm like, I have retained somebody who's like, I don't know what some of these decisions are for that generation. I have to execute them, but I don't understand the context. So I retain talent in my bench, in my inner circle, that says, I'll pay you simply so you take my phone call anytime I need to call you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I need to know what to do with this financial situation. What are my options? Quickly, and it's, again, think about this, how I approach this with the problem solving. What are my options? What are the consequences I don't know about? And if I went this way, here's what happens. What else am I needing to be aware of? And I have that quick thinking partner to make a decision and move on from that, because I have to make the decision and move. And I'll know that there'll be a cascade of decisions that need to happen. So I've stacked my bench as best I can. I plan for some contingencies. And I also know, and I made a commitment to, like, myself in the mirror, I also still get to do me and the things I love, which is the business and the friendships and other things. They will not be off the table because of that choice.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, this is a season. It's not my whole life.
I love the fact that you already know what you're going to do. You already have your people in place to actually pick up the phone call. And guys, it's not her husband. It's not
Yes.
a best friend. It is your husband. It's
No,
somebody
it's
else.
not.
No, it's
His
not.
job is to support me as an emotional hot mess.
Right.
Other people are the talent and the team who have professional skills I need.
That 100%. That is, guys, I need you to understand that, because she has it in place. I don't have it in place. I can tell you that now.
I don't have it in place for my own life, so I'm not perfect here. That's a problem. I'm just avoiding, but it is important. And that's why I always say, hire a mentor versus just ask somebody to peer coach you. I think peers are really valuable. You should have a board of directors. They can be peers, but you need people to have 5 roles in your life. There's the cheerleader, there's the ass kicker, there's the knowledge sharer, there's the proud parent, and there's the person who says, let's ride, do the work. And you need that, because sometimes people will play multiple hats. And so when clients hire me, if they're emerging entrepreneurs, I'm like, I often carry all 5 roles, and I'm very cognizant of that. But I said, over time, you're going to need to build this for yourself, because it's how you endure the wobbles. And if it feels like you're wobbly in business, hello, welcome to the business world. You're on a moving planet, moving rapidly in circles. No wonder it feels like you're spinning, because you are. But you can decide if you're going to control the wobble and influence its direction. So influence more than control, maybe, or it's going to hand it to you. And so we always have this frank conversation in all of my peer groups and all of my inner circle. And it's like, the wobble's kicking my butt today. I need a thinking partner who's going to get me through this fast. And to also tell me, pull my head out of my butt, and hey, you're doing really good. You're better than you think. Stay the course. I see it. You don't. Trust me. And you have to have somebody. And we've always had this, and I have this with my husband, and I had this with all my business friends. If I'm ever crossing the line of what you think I don't stand in value with, tap me on the shoulder and say, leave the room. And I'll just go.
And she will.
And I will
she's
just go.
that direct. You will. You will.
Like, okay, yes, I'm crossing the line, or you're done. Go. And it's like, oh, all right. And I'm like, yeah, exit stage left appropriately.
I love that. All right. So a sneak peek into Christine's business and future. What do you see? What can we keep an eye out on for you?
Well, for me, it is continuing the momentum. So it's not, it's not leopard changing spots. It is about serving more people in more ways, because I really think that there's so much growth in entrepreneurship, but I want entrepreneurs to be commercially successful. And that is something that I don't see is pacing with that. I've got an idea to start a business. So for us, it's global domination to support more people.
Ooh, global domination. Oh my God.
We laugh over this. Well, it came out of a funny conversation, I have to tell you. So I'm working, and I'm a friend of Les Brown's, and he said, well, it's a brand new year. So it's the first time I'm talking to you through the year. What's the plan for 2026? And I'm like, is global domination the wrong answer? And he's like, the first time I met you, do you remember what I said to you? And Christine, I said, yes. And he said, I didn't show up to be average. I showed up to be great. You've got to be hungry. I was like, let's go make a bigger impact.
Oh my God. All right. On a lighter side, and I think this is going to be fun. Something unexpected about you that my audience is going to go, oh my God, she did what?
Ooh. Well, I don't know if they'd be shocked by this, but if this is non-business related, sometimes you have to do the biggest thing that scares you. And that's a pattern that I challenge myself on all the time. But the first time I ever left home, I didn't do it in any small fashion. I went halfway around the world. I lived with strangers that I had never met, and I spoke the language about this much. And it really challenged me to cut the dependency on anybody else, but to just really trust myself to figure it out.
All right. Here's
And it
that
wasn't
last.
just like go down the street or go somewhere else. It's like, no, let's go to a foreign country. You hardly speak the language. And
Where did you go? Where did you
live
go?
with 4 people you don't know.
Where did you go?
Germany.
Okay. Did the other 4 people speak German?
2 of them spoke better than I did, and the other one I would have said no. I was probably a little better, but we were a little bit the blind leading the blind. Between the 2 of us, I think we had 50 words when we first got there. We were really good in 4 months, but it was, again, trial by fire.
Can you speak German now?
I can, to a degree. It's funny, German and French in my brain get mixed up a lot, but depending on where I've most recently traveled.
Yeah, that happens. And I don't speak any language, guys, just so you know, except English barely.
Well, I speak Canadian, and that's not the same thing at all. We certainly don't spell the same.
No, they don't. All right, let's some fast round music stuff going on here. So
Excellent.
you mind pump up some volume on music. What are some of your songs?
Okay, so I actually wrote a song. It's called Build It Bold. And it came down to this idea that I needed an anthem and I had something to say. And so my friend's like, do you want me to write? Do you want me to, compose a song to you? And so I wrote the lyrics and they put it to music, and it's super fun. We use it whenever we're running an event.
Oh,
if I was going to take the stage, I think One Republic's I Lived always is my get hyped song, because I don't want to, get to the end of my days and think I missed the moment. I'm like, I hope when the water rises, I built the walls.
Oh my God. So good. All right. Book or books? Tell me about them.
Okay, so if you were reading a novel, one of my favorite novels is called The Power of One. Actually, it was translated into a movie. It's a book out of South Africa written during the apartheid years, and Morgan Freeman's in it. So if you want to find a film, it's amazing, called The Power of One. If you need a great weekend novel. And for me, on the book side of business and not outside the ones I read, I really like the 12-week year, which is, get active. Build, you can take a lot more action more quickly than you're doing if you think of things in 12-week years.
So tell me about the books behind you. What is that? Okay,
so these are my 3 best-selling international bestsellers. And this is interesting. So this is my most recent one. It's called Evolvepreneur After Hours. This is a fun project because I actually hosted on somebody else's podcast platform for more than a year. And I wanted to know how they were using podcasting to actually monetize in their business. So I got to be a guest host so I could learn all about how they were doing it. And I wrote a love letter in here about, if you're going to use podcast guesting, how do you actually use it to create commercial success? And most people spend a lot of time podcasting and don't commercialize it. Read my chapter in this book.
Oh, I'm going to get it. Okay. Everybody else has to get it too. All right.
So can I show them all?
Yes.
All right. So this is also super fun. So this one, Jumpstart Your Blank. This was actually written as in something I had, again, negotiate with your people. If you can't always afford services, think about negotiating in trade, because that's where this one came from. But this one came down to, I really needed something to talk about the business fundamentals. How do you actually create clients? And so I wrote a chapter in here saying, if you need to figure this out, this is really to the point. How do you find clients? But this is a mix of social things. And then I will show the last one because it's also super important. This one was my very first book, and it talked about the moment in my life when I stood on a grenade and I lost my job, and I started my spark into becoming an entrepreneur. When I did that, I sat down and wrote 10 questions of who do I want to be when I grow up in the future, because I couldn't see past where I was in the moment. The 10 questions that I asked myself are in this book. Every client that comes to work with me gets these 10 questions as the first piece of homework, because I want to know, who are you building towards, and what do you want to be beyond business owner that makes X amount of money? It really comes down to, who do you want to be as a badass? Because I'm going to help you get there. And so we actually take those 10 questions that we talked about from that moment, and we use them in our work today.
Okay.
And I use that 10 questions probably twice a year to go, am I on track? Is my life like oxygen? Do I love the life I'm building? And if not, we course correct.
What's the name of the book? I see Heal.
Oh, it's called Heal. You have the power. And this is, I think, the 4th edition as well.
All right. And can we get that on Amazon?
You can get all 3 on Amazon, yes. Or you can come buy them also on my website as well.
Oh, website too. Awesome. And your website is?
Guys, look how simple this is. My name is Christine Campbell Rapin, Rapin. Come find me, ChristineCampbellRapin.com.
Awesome. And a superpower for just 24 hours, what would it be?
I love to fly.
Oh, yay. That would be fun. Just to fly.
I
What are you going to do when you get places? Would you just fly or would you go somewhere and do something?
I would love to see the world in all of its beauty without all of its challenges. And I just think I would love to float through the wind. Not anything specific. Nature, sky, travel, see parts of the world I have never seen. But the big thing why I want to fly, I'd see the world through a different lens.
So we already have created you 2 quotes here today, but do you mind giving us some other quotes that you love?
I will. I think you really need to understand that momentum starts with one decision. And I think the other thing that I would say is be true to yourself. This is a business that you are building. It needs to fuel you, and it needs to be something that feels compelling to you. And a big part of that is be true to you, who you are, not who everyone wants you to be or who they think you could be or are limited by. Just be true to yourself, because honestly, that's how you'll find the magic of your people and your clients.
Wow. Do you believe in motivation? And if you do, what do you do to get it on demand?
Yeah, I do believe in motivation. And I think a big part of it is my mantra. And there's a mantra. So I guess that would also be a quote. If you put it into that category, it's just get off zero. Motivation comes from momentum. Momentum comes from a choice. It's about getting off zero. And my dad always said to me, because we've taken, beautiful, beautiful moments. We've had some rough ones along the way. And he's like, you can regroup and quit the field for a few hours, but I always want you to make a decision before you go, which is, will you be back tomorrow? And that's always my commitment, which is some days you get up and go, I love this. I can't wait to find my next client today, or have a conversation that sparks something and casts ripples in ways I can't imagine, but I hope they're always positive. And then show up. Big part of the battle. Commit to getting off zero.
Show up and make those phone calls, huh, Christine?
Yes. You can't go wrong with that advice. You really can't.
What is the best way for our audience to stay connected with you?
I want you to play your own game. Talk about, again, how parallel things come into play. My name is Christine Campbell Rapin. You come to find me on my website. You can choose your own adventure. You can choose the social media platform. You can reach out and phone me. You can reach out by email. Pick your own pleasure. But my most important thing is make a move.
Make a move. That's it. All right. One more thing, a mic drop moment that we haven't talked about maybe, and you want to leave us with one more thing. What would it be?
I think everything comes down to your decision to get in the room.
Ooh.
And I'm prepared to investigate in rooms. And you and I met from coming from far places into the room, and people are like, I won't get in. I won't even inconvenience myself to get onto a virtual event. I won't go down the street to an event in my own city. And I'm like, I'll get on a plane and spend a lot of dollars in Canadian currency to a US dollar, because I believe in the power of getting in the room.
Yeah. And that's how you met.
It opens doors you cannot imagine. And so I would say, don't expect it to be convenient. Expect it to be worth it if you get in the room.
Okay, more mic drop moments on and on and on. Get in the room, show up, and pick up that phone.
Yes.
Christine, thank you for being here with us today. You were just so much fun.
Well, I love you. It's been super fun to come play.
I love you. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Female Entrepreneurs Magazine. I hope you found inspiration, actionable tips, and a sense of connection with our incredible community of driven women. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, leave a review, and share the episode with fellow entrepreneurs who are ready to elevate their game. Remember, your success is just the beginning. and we're here to support you in every step of the way. Until next time, keep shining, keep thriving, and remember, you have the power to create the business and life of your dreams. Stay inspired, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.